Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Northbound Gear. Northbound Gear is designed for maneuverability and durability and is made to last through even the toughest of elements. My go-to for their pants is the water resistance adventure pants and their lined waterproof jeans. I've worn them while out ice fishing, crawling through the woods bear hunting, and on the west coast out on the boat. And I even wear them around when I'm having a lazy day at the house. They are that comfortable. They also offer jackets, summer pants, backpacks, and many more. Men's and women's sizes are available, and by partnering with One Tree Planted, you're planting a tree with every purchase. Check them out for yourself at northboundgear.co, and when you use my promo code Sheldon15 at checkout, you'll receive 15% off your order. That's northboundgear.co and promo code Sheldon15. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors Podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host Sheldon Marion, and before we get into this episode, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to it, head over to pretty well any major podcast platform and search up the Buick Outdoors Podcast if you just want to listen to it. If you are just listening to it and you want to watch the video version, head over to our YouTube channel and there'll be a podcast playlist, as well as there's a playlist for all of our other outdoor adventures: hunting, fishing, exploring, cooking. There's a little bit of everything for everyone, and then while you're over there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors Podcast. Seeing how we're getting into July now, our bear season is for sure over until it opens back up here in August. We went out a couple more times there, me and Shelby, but because of the rain and other stuff that we had planned around the house, we never did get another one. And I bring that up because I still had my second bear in the deep freeze, and typically what I do is I wait until I have at least one really big bear or two of the smaller bears that we kind of tend to get around here before I bring them into the butcher, just because I don't like to waste the butcher's time. If you bring in one small bear, to me it almost seems like a waste of the butcher's time, because they have to kind of clean everything afterwards to go back to cutting like beef and pork and all that stuff. So I like to make it so it's kind of worth his while to swap everything over to the wild game. So with that being said, my second bear, it wasn't a very big bear, and I was kind of looking at the cost of everything on bringing my bear in, getting it all cut up and stuff like that, and weighing that and just doing it myself. I've made sausage and pepperonis and all that stuff myself several times, but I was kind of weighing out if it's worth my time to buy a new sausage stuffer. In the past, I've always just used my grinder and then used the sausage stuffing attachment on the grinder. But with that, it takes a lot longer than an actual sausage stuffer. So, the sausage stuffer there, it was $300. And after I was kind of weighing it all out, I ended up getting the sausage stuffer. When you take an animal to the butcher, for wild game, it's between $1.20 to $1.30 per pound for the basic cut and wrap. And the bears that we get up here, they're not very big. They're around 150 pounds-ish. Somewhere around there, 150, 200 pounds is kind of a big one. And with that being said, if the butcher charges you basically $150 flat fee for a basic cut and wrap kind of a thing. And that's even if you only bring in like a 100-pound bear, they're still going to charge you that minimal $150. And basically what they're doing with the bears when you're bringing them in, for us anyways, because we turn them mostly into pepperoni and sausages, is they're just deboning it, kind of a thing. And then on top of that, for any sausages, it's right around $3 to $4 per pound, with a minimum of a 30-pound order. So that's $90. So if you bring in just your bear and get your minimum 30 pounds of sausage made up, you're already sitting at $240. If you want any smokies done, it's typically around $6 a pound, and again, that minimum 30-pound order, so that's $180. So if you get just the basic cut and wrap, or deboning in this case, and your smokies, you're sitting at $330. If you get, 30 pounds of smokies, 30 pounds of sausages, and then your basic cut and wrap, it's already at $420. So I looked at that compared to a sausage stuffer, like it's a one-time cost of $300. I already did the one-time cost of my meat grinder, which was $100, because I just bought just the small basic LEM one. I can't remember the model, but you can get them from LEM, PV Mart, Canadian Tire, Walmart, I think, too. They're between $80 to $120. So, you kind of take into consideration for this one time that it's going to cost me a bit of money, but now going forward in the future, I don't have to buy a meat grinder every time. I don't have to buy a sausage stuffer every time. The only thing that I have to buy is basically the seasonings, the casings, and the pork fat or the pork loin like I use. And pretty well the seasoning, depending on how much meat you're going to be doing. They come in like packets for 5 pounds, they come in packets for 15 pounds, and they come in packages of, I believe, 20, and then some are also 30. But the price range is anywhere from like 15 to kind of $45. And then there's also kits that have the seasoning and the casings. Maybe one other thing, maybe 2 sets of casings or something like that. And those are more like the $45, $50 ones. If it's just seasonings, it's typically around 20 to $30, and that'll season up to, roughly 40 pounds. And I say roughly a lot here because, go to a store and look at the seasoning packages. Some of them say for 5 pounds, and it's $15. The next one, which is a different company, it'll say this season's 20 pounds, and it's $10. It varies hugely, but typically speaking, you're not going to spend more than, I don't think I've ever spent $50 on seasoning. And if I did, it was an entire kit. The one I bought, I think it came with 4 or 5 different seasonings. Each seasoning was for 5 pounds of meat. And it also came with, I want to say, again, 4 or 5 packs of casings. So that one, it was a bit on the pricey side, but what you get out of it is just a pile of seasonings. And then also, when you're doing this too, like your casings, they're, again, it varies so much depending on what you want. If you're doing like the little snack sticks, I think they take the 19 millimeter casings if you're getting the collagen ones. And then also, even with those, there's the ones that are smoked, there's ones that aren't smoked, there's ones they have to soak in warm water to kind of loosen them up. Some you don't have to soak in water at all, you just throw them right onto the tube. Then there's pretty well 3 different normal sizes. There's like the small little 17 or 19 millimeter, like 3/8 casings for like your pepperoni sticks. And then from there you have like 7/8 for like your Italian sausages and bratwursts and stuff like that. And then you have kind of, they're about 2.5 inches maybe 2 inches, and that's for like your bigger chunks of kind of like pizza pepperoni almost. And then there's like the really big ones that are about 3 inches maybe across, and that's for like your big things of like bologna and salami and summer sausage and things of that nature. Uh, Also, there's the collagen casings, uh, and the natural casings. Where you get the hog casings again, that's for like Italian sausage, size stuff. The kind of like 1 inch casings, and then there's also natural sheep casings, and that sheep intestine, that is what's used for like your small breakfast links and pepperoni sticks and all that stuff. But casings, they range between 20 to $50, maybe somewhere around there. And then also some of them, if you read the package, one, it'll say this will fill up roughly 8 pounds of meat. The others, some of those really big ones that you can get, like the 3 inch wide ones, they're, geez, again, this is where it varies. Some are 8 inches, some are like 16 inches. But yeah, some of those, they hold like 2 or 3 pounds of meat. So the varying casing sizes and the cost for it is very, very up and down. But yeah, $50 for casings is like at the very top high end. I don't think I've spent $50 on casings other than when I've bought like a bunch of hog casings, and then basically what I did was I just bought more than what I needed and I froze the rest, and I only used like 2 out of the whatever 10 that I bought. And then also when it comes to your pork fat, uh this is where it's nice kind of doing it on your own, because for me, pork fat is nice to use. It's readily available, but I also like using pork loin a lot of the times. You can buy a giant pork loin that's like 15 pounds from Safeway or whatever, and they're like $35, something around there. So a lot of times in the springtime, especially, it seems like they kind of come on sale. So I'll go out and I'll buy kind of 3 or 4 of them, and I'll just throw them all into my freezer. And whenever I go to make up sausages, I just pull one out, unthaw it, use what I need. The rest get cut up into pork chops or whatever, and it works great. You can also do up your own mixtures and blends if you need, say, 5 pounds of fat. You could do 2.5 pounds of loin, 2.5 pounds of pork fat, mix it up. You can change your grind size and all that stuff. When you're doing it yourself, it's just spectacular. Also, one thing that I've done in the past too, with Bear, is when I made my Bear burger, I went out to the butcher and I bought a whole pile of beef trim. And what beef trim is basically when you're cutting like your steaks and roasts and stuff like that, you see the steaks and the roasts are always, nice and symmetrical. They have nice clean cut edges and stuff. Well, all that stuff that comes off of there to make those nice straight cuts, that's beef trim. And it goes into a pile, and it's usually ground up into burger. But if you talk to your butcher, a lot of times you can buy it for, I don't know what it would be, $1 a pound or something like that. And again, like, if you say, hey, I need 10 pounds of beef trim, you can mix your Bear 50-50 with beef trim, 80-20, 90-10, whatever. It's all up to you, and then it really changes the flavor profile of your hamburger, and it kind of changes the texture if you're really paying attention. But whatever, I did it once there for just to mix it up, try something new, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But anyways, getting back to the sausage making, if you end up buying the most expensive casing, the most expensive seasoning, and like $30 worth of pork fat, which is a lot of pork fat. It's 50, 90, it's $120. And I don't know what that would do. Probably 20 pounds of meat for sure, anyways. 20 to 30 pounds. So, I mean, another thing too is when you're taking it to a butcher, they have the minimal order. I wanted pepperoni. My butcher too, his pepperoni, it's more like a cracked pepper kind of thing. And the pepperoni I wanted this year was kind of like the store-bought pepperoni, where it's like you can taste like the aniseed oil in there and stuff like that. And also, I don't want 30 pounds of pepperoni. Uh, Little pepperoni sticks, they're nice to have around. It's nice to have, 5-10 pounds of that. And that way you have a lot for yourself, but then you can also give out some to your friends and family and stuff. Let them try out bear. But, like 30 pounds of pepperoni, that's, that, it's just too much. Same thing when it comes to anything like, if you want Italian sausage, jalapeno cheddar, bratwurst, whatever. If you do it at home, if you only want 5 pounds of it, 5 1 pound packs of sausages, you can do that. And all you gotta do is grab your 5 pound seasoning, throw it in there, grind it up, stuff it. Perfect. There you go. There's 5 pounds of Italian sausage, and away you go. Unfortunately, at the butcher, you don't get that option. It's 30 pounds or nothing for the most part. Some places might have 15-pound minimum orders, but I think 30 pounds is kind of just like almost industry standard. Kind of like that $150 basic minimal price for like the cut and wrap kind of a thing. It's just industry standard. So when you're doing it at home, the stuff that you're able to make and the amount is so much better. The unfortunate thing is that you are doing it at home and you do have to take the time. And when you first start out, you're gonna make quite a few mistakes. I can do it now where I'd say 85% of the time it turns out amazing, turns out great, but there's still times where you put in all this time and effort and it's not exactly what you thought what you were gonna get. So there's also that aspect too. The butcher does it for a living. When they say, yeah, you're gonna get Italian sausage, you're getting Italian sausage, and it's a seasoning that's been proven. It tastes great 99% of the time, and you get what you pay for, kind of thing. Where at home, there's a lot of variables. One thing that I've learned over the years, and there's probably a lot of people that don't agree with it, but when you open up your seasoning, you have your bag of seasoning, and then inside there's a second bag, and it has all your salts and nitrates. I take that bag out, and I throw that directly into the trash. I don't add the salt, and I don't add the nitrates to it, and my stuff turns out fantastic now. Where before, it was always a guessing game, because there was times where you'd make bratwurst sausage, and man, you almost couldn't eat it. Like, you almost had to boil it just to kind of cut the salt a little bit. And even then, a lot of ketchup was required to eat it. But ever since I've taken the salt and nitrate bag, just throwing that into the trash, my stuff has been turning out great. And I think for the most part, a lot of people tell you to keep the nitrates in it if you're smoking it, because you're doing such a low and slow smoking process, that it's a perfect temperature for anything, any like bacteria and stuff to grow on it. But I don't know. I don't really see an issue not putting it in. I haven't had any issues so far, but I don't know. Nobody's gotten sick from eating my stuff. I haven't gotten sick. Uh, and a lot of times too, you can you grab a brisket, throw it in your smoker for like 16 hours, and nobody bats an eye at that. So if I'm going to be smoking sausages for 6 hours, I think it's something I can kind of get over. Uh, with that too, talking about smokers, that is another. Well, it's not quite a one-time expense. The smoker itself is a one-time expense, but then depending on which one you buy, you have to buy either the pucks or the wood chips. What I used to run was one of those Big Chief smokers. It's a very small smoker, which is unfortunate because it worked amazingly well. Just a little heating element in the bottom, came with a little pan, and I think there was about 6 shelves that are, I don't know, maybe 14 inches wide and 10 inches long, kind of thing. But with that, it worked phenomenally well. You buy wood chips, or if you want to try something new, I go around and I'd cut down a couple of willows or a birch tree, and I'd strip all the bark off of it, and I'd sit there with my axe, and I'd just cut down the tree so I'd have nice strips that were whatever 1 to 3, sometimes 4 inches long, kind of a thing, and I let them dry out in the sun for like, I don't know, a day, and I'd use that for my wood chips, and it worked great if you didn't want to buy wood chips, or if you just kind of ran out or forgot to pick them up, or whatever the case may be. And then from there, I upgraded and I bought the biggest, most badass smoker you could buy at the time, and it was like the Berkley 6-rack smoker. And honestly, I have not had any luck with that thing whatsoever. It A lot of people like them. I don't. For some reason or whatever, it just, I don't know. I'm just used to the Big Chief smoker. For some reason, I just can't get good stuff to come out of this. When you're smoking meat too, it's a lot hotter down the bottom where the heating element is compared to the top. So you have to swap your racks around, and I've done that, and I've monitored it. And for whatever reason, I'm no good with the Berkley smoker, so I haven't really used it. I spent, I think it was $700 on that thing, and I've used it quite a bit, but yeah, not nearly as much to justify spending $700 on a smoker. So, that's one thing to take into consideration with this. Also, with the Berkley, you have to buy the pucks. If you don't buy the pucks, you're hooped. You're out of luck. You can't just run out into the backyard, cut down a green alder, and strip the bark off of it and use that. If you don't have the pucks, you're not doing any smoking whatsoever. But if you're gonna be doing this stuff at home and you want like quote unquote real smokies, you're gonna need a smoker. For me, I would honestly recommend one of the Big Chiefs. They're a fraction of the cost of a Berkley, and pretty well what you'll have to do is smoke it until, it's been so long since I've used one, but pretty well smoke it for a few hours, and then you just finish it in your oven. With the Berkley smoker, you do have the oven element in the very bottom, so you can smoke it and you can finish it in the Berkley. But even with the Berkley smoker, I would recommend you finish it in your oven in the house, just because the heating element doesn't work quite as good as they kind of advertise it as. It's great for the smoking aspect, but for the heat aspect, it wasn't good. Uh, Honestly, if you're gonna be spending, that $700 on a smoker, I wouldn't even look at a Bradley, and I would just go straight for the throat, and I'd go straight to the Traeger, and I'd just get a Traeger grill. Uh, they seem to be kind of the best of the best, and they're multi-purpose. You can make your smokies in there, you can make your pepperonis in there, and then when you're all said and done, crank the heat up, grill a steak on it. You know what I mean? Uh, and then with that, again, you have to use the pellets for that. So, there is some kind of underlying cost to this stuff. Bradley smokers, the wood chips, they're like hugely expensive now. I think when I was in the shop there the other day, it was $45 for a box of pellets, or not pellets, the pucks. And then for your Traegers, I really don't know how much the pellets cost because I don't have one. But it is one thing that you have to take into consideration, that you're gonna have to have the pellets. Again, you can't just run into your backyard. But with that being said, depending on what size of Traeger or Bradley that you get, with Bradley you can get the 4-rack or you can get the 6-rack. With the Traegers, you can get that tiny little one where it's like the tailgate one, or you can get like the Timberline one where they're just huge, just like a barrel. So the amount of stuff that you can do on those. The 4-rack Bradley, you can maybe get, I don't know, 10 pounds, 15 pounds of meat into that thing. Where the 6-rack, you can almost double it. Same thing with the Traegers. The one you might be able to get 5 pounds in it. The other one you might be able to get like 40 pounds. One thing that I used to do too with my Bradley smoker, it has 6 racks, but I'd pretty well pull them all off except for the top one. And I got stainless steel S hooks. And when you're linking your sausages, if you link it like a proper sausage place, you can get links that are, each sausage is about, that 8 inches long. But then when you link them, it's a group of 4, connect to another group of 4, connect to another group of 4. So it's a huge link that takes up pretty well the entire height of your smoker. And with those stainless steel S hooks, I'll take 2 of the trays and I'll double them up, put it on the top rack, and then I'll line up probably, I want to say 3 rows and 3 hooks in each row, and then I can hang those huge lengths of sausage links on that, and then you can get them all into one shot, and you can just stuff that thing right full. Also, you have to pay attention to your humidity control. A lot of times they say keep the top completely wide open for the first little bit, just to draw all the moisture out, and it can, no, I might have that backwards. See, maybe this is why I'm no good with that Bradley smoker. Maybe it's keep the thing shut. Oh man, I'd have to look at that again. There's something to do with the humidity control with the top. When you first start out, I think you want to keep it shut. It draws out some of the moisture, and until it turns kind of brown on the outside, and then you can open it up, and it takes like the first 2 hours, something like that. And then you open it wide open for the next 2 hours, and you keep smoking it. I can't remember. Don't take my word on how to use a Bradley smoker, because like I've said, I think that thing's a piece of junk, and pretty well a waste of time. But that's also coming from me. There's other people that absolutely love their Bradley smokers. Unfortunately, I'm just not one of those people. But yeah, when it comes to making your own sausage, basically, the process of it is very, very simple. What I do is I thaw out all the quarters of my bear, I debone it, and when you're doing it this way too, you don't have to worry about what cuts or what. Like, your end result, is to have strips of meat that are kind of like 1 inch by 1 inch, so that way they can go through your grinder, or cube it all up depending on how much horsepower your meat grinder has, or if you're using like a hand crank one, you're definitely not gonna want real long strips of meat. With my grinder, it can handle the actual like strips. So for me, it's real easy. I just run my knife down one side of the bone, cut around the bone. I have a great big slab of meat, and I just start cutting long strips, and then I just trim it up until they're about an inch wide. So inch wide, whatever, 12 inches long. Turn on the meat grinder, and I feed that through, and then I do the same thing with the pork loins. Basically, same thing, 1 inch strips, however long you want to make them. And basically what I do is I kind of put in 4 or 5 strips of bear meat, 1 strip of pork loin, and then I just kind of keep doing that. That way, in your bowl or your tub, whatever it is that you're grinding your meat into, you can tell the difference between, bear meat and pork, and it's kind of sort of mixed in there. It's not just one side's pork, one side's bear kind of a thing. And with me too, if you talk to like the real serious sausage making guys, they'll tell you that some styles of sausage requires this size of grind. For me, I always just use a fine grind. Some people say your grind should be 80% fine and then 20% coarse grind, and that way it has like a certain texture to it when you're chewing on it. I don't pay attention to any of that. Hey buddy, what are you barking for? But for me, I just use the fine grind. I don't really mess around with the grind too much. What I used to do was, the different ways that you can kind of mix up your seasonings is you can cube up all your meat, mix your seasoning, throw it in with your cubed meat, mix it all up, and then grind it. The problem with that, though, is your grinder doesn't really like that. It's a little bit harder because of all the moisture in there. It makes your meat and fat almost kind of like sticky, and it sticks to the knives and stuff like that. Some people, what they do is they grind it through the coarse first, and then they mix in their seasoning, and then they grind it through the fine. Again, you're just kind of overworking your meat. Every time that you break down the meat proteins, they get a little bit more stringy. So what I do is I grind everything up through the fine grind. I put my seasoning in there. I mix it all up by hand. I throw it in the fridge, and I let it sit there and chill for 20-30 minutes, and that way it really draws in all of the moisture and all of the flavor. And then while it's cool, I pull it out, put it into sausage stuffer, and then I start making my sausage. One thing, if you're going to be using your meat grinder for sausage stuffer, for me, I never did it, but like the real sausage fanatics kind of thing, they'll tell you that you always have to keep it cold. Sometimes they have like a water bath with ice in like a big bowl, and then the bowl that they have their meat in goes on top of that one, so it keeps their meat chilled. They also freeze like their stuffing tubes, and they have like ice packs on it, because when you're especially if you're working with pork fat, just the heat from your hand, it can start to melt that pork fat. And then I guess, apparently that makes it, apparently that just makes it so the texture is a slightly bit off. But for me, I've never had that issue. Your grinder will start to get kind of hot and warm. So, if you're going to be using your meat grinder for stuffing your sausage, I would say keep it to like a 10 to 15 pound maximum. After that, it's not exactly cooking it, but you're going to be putting a lot of strain on your meat grinder, and it starts getting hot, and it makes it a lot harder to actually stuff all your sausage and stuff in it. That's also another reason why I decided to buy the sausage stuffer. Uh, when you're putting it through the meat grinder attachment, uh, basically, a lot of times it's hard to actually stuff it down the tube and into the grinder, and then a lot of times you push it down with a little plunger. Some of it comes back up. Most of it goes out, but it kind of comes up and starts to stick on your little handle and stuff, on your plunger, and uh, it takes a long time. Especially with like the meat grinder that I have, it's not a big industrial one where it just spits it out. It's a very slow moving grinder. It works great for grinding up your meat and all that. If you do a whole moose, it's a process. But for doing up the bear, it does the job kind of a thing. Uh, but with the sausage stuffer, with me, I got the 5 pound one, and even that, if the horn was a little bit longer and I could put more casing on there, it as fast as you're cranking on it, as long as your meat isn't too sticky and bound up, it just comes shooting out the end, and it's so much faster. So I mean, if you've been doing this for a while, you've been kind of hemming and hawing about buying the sausage stuffer. They are very expensive. The 5 pound sausage stuffer from LEM was $300, which is pretty expensive. But the amount of time that I saved from doing this bear, normally it's a full day process for me. I start in the morning, get everything ground up, get all the seasoning put in and mixed up, and that's a couple of hours kind of a thing if you're kind of going quick about it. And then after that, it's like it's another 4 to 6 hours of actually stuffing all your sausage and stuff like that. Whereas this time, the whole process was like half a day instead of like a day and a half kind of a thing. Because once all the sausage was all, or like the meat was all mixed up and ready to go, I put it into the stuffer, and man, you start cranking on that thing, and you have to pay attention because pretty soon it just goes poop, pushes out the last little bit of your casing off, and it's still coming out the tube, and you gotta pick it all back up and throw it back in your bowl. But the amount of sausage and pepperoni links that you're able to make now with the sausage stuffer is well worth that $300. Also too, there's so many different little like attachments and stuff. Well, not really attachments, but different size tubes that you can get. The 5 pound LEM comes with 3 of them. I can't remember what sizes that they are, but it's kind of like a ½ inch, a 3/4, and a 1 inch, I want to say. For the pepperoni sticks that I just made, I had to buy the 3/8 sausage stuffer, and that one, it's stainless steel. The ones that came with the sausage stuffer are plastics. So, I mean, over time, they're going to get a little discolored and stuff, but whatever. I can just go out and buy the stainless steel ones when I need to, kind of a thing. Also, if you want to see a review of the sausage stuffer, come August, I have a video coming out of the sausage stuffer, and then also making black bear pepperoni. So even though right now it's July, you have to wait about a month for those videos to come out, but eventually they will come out, and that's just over on our YouTube channel. But yeah, if you're looking at getting into sausage making, it's a great little, I mean, you could even call it a hobby. Even if you're not a hunter and you just want to try giving it a go, it is a lot of fun. You can try different blends. You can try your own blends. You can buy stuff from High Mountain Seasoning, LEM Seasoning. Oh man, there's another one, Wild West Seasoning, I think. You can also go online and see what people are using. You can mix up your own little blends. One thing I highly recommend though too is once you get all your meat mixed up and it's ready to go, take a handful of it, whatever it is, like a meatball size, smash it up into a patty and quickly cook it up in the frying pan there, and eat it before you commit to stuffing your sausages. A lot of times, if you have too much seasoning, you can always just grind up a little bit more pork loin or something like that, or go out and buy like a roast or something, and kind of top it up, mix it all up, and then try it again to kind of cut back on the seasoning. Or if there's not enough seasoning, you can always add a little bit more before you start stuffing up all your sausages. That's one thing that we learned the hard way, is it's never good to make like 50 pounds of sausage, get it home, open up a pack, cook it up, and find out that there's not nearly enough seasoning. It tastes like cooked meat. So, learn from our previous mistakes, and man, the things that you can do at home when you're doing it yourself is just phenomenal. Like I said, you can mess around with the textures of it, with the coarse grind and the fine grind. Every once in a while too, I bought sausages at the store and it was almost like chunked meat encased in fine grind. You can try that out. It wasn't that good, but I mean, you can try it. Same thing with like your mixtures. You can grind up whatever. You can grind up loin, like pork loin. You can grind up bacon. You can grind up, you can make your own turkey, pepperoni links, chicken salami, whatever. That's one thing this fall that I'm going to be doing. In September, I'm taking 3 weeks off again. And we have just a phenomenal amount of rabbits out here. And so far it seems like we have a really good amount of chickens this year too. So like in 3 weeks, I can shoot 10 chickens a day with a maximum limit of I think 30. A lot of times what I do with those is I bring them home, I knock the breast off the breastbone, I chill them overnight. In the morning, I vacuum seal them, and then I just kind of keep a count of how many I have in the deep freeze. Both the rabbits, I'll have to double check, but I don't believe that there's a bag limit on them. So if we go out, we shoot 10 rabbits, bring them home, again, debone them all, let them chill. The next day, if we have 10 or 20 rabbits, after like a 2-3 day hunt kind of thing, I can grind up all the meat, and I can throw in a bunch of pork fat with it, because rabbits, they're like 99.99% muscle. There's no fat on them at all, so we'll definitely need some pork fat for those guys. But then, if I want to make whatever, snowshoe hair bologna, I can. And I'm really going to be experimenting with it here this fall. And I'm just going to give her a go. I know a lot of people that shoot geese and ducks. You can only eat so many roasted goose or ducks and stuff like that. So they make a ton of goose pepperoni, and that stuff's phenomenal. If you haven't tried that yet, that's another thing I highly recommend you try is goose pepperoni. It's, oh man, it is good stuff. But anyways, guys, in a month's time here, I'll have those videos of how to make sausage coming up. Well, it's not going to be making sausage. It's going to be making pepperoni. Also a gear review of the sausage stuffer that I got from LEM. And if you guys want to check that out and give this a go, it's a lot of fun. You can mess around with it a bunch. The things that you can do are just endless. So I hope you guys give her a try and have some fun with it. Let me know what you guys try and if it turns out. I think we're going to cut her there, guys. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video, leave us a comment or two, subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to this on one of the podcast platforms, write us a review, whether it was good, bad, 1 star, 5 star, whatever. We kind of, I want to cater to what you guys like or what you don't like, kind of thing. Uh, Also, if you are just listening to this and you want to watch it, head over to YouTube, check us out over there, subscribe to the channel. We have all sorts of stuff coming out this year. It's July 5th, and I already have videos scheduled to come out every Friday until August 19th. So, we've been extremely busy. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this podcast. And, yeah, catch you on the next one.